September 2019, a new standards-based curriculum will be rolled out from kindergarten to class 6 in primary schools. Now, according to President Akufo-Addo, this curriculum, drawn from the best practices around the world, will focus on making Ghanaian children confident, innovative, creative thinkers, digitally literate, well-rounded patriotic citizens. The government intends to also introduce new legislation to redefine senior high school as a basic education level. Listen to President Akufo-Addo as he delivered the State of the Nation address.
Continue to elude them. Mr. Speaker, a sudden injection of oil revenue or a rise or fall in the price of gold or cocoa can make a dramatic difference to your financial situation. But there are no shortcuts to having an educated and skilled workforce. We have no choice but to provide our young people with quality education and lifelong learning opportunities for every Ghanaian. It is the only way to ensure prosperity and to protect our democracy. We are not sparing any efforts to make education in Ghana of the best quality and fit for the needs of the 21st century. In September 2019, a new standard-based curriculum will be rolled out from kindergarten to class 6 in primary schools. This curriculum has drawn upon the best practices from all over the world and will focus on making Ghanaian children confident, innovative, creative thinking, digitally literate, well-rounded patriotic citizens. Mathematics, science, reading, writing, and creativity are therefore at the heart of this new curriculum. Mr. Speaker, poverty should not be an excuse for any Ghanaian child not to reach their full potential. It therefore warms my heart that we are now able to say that education in the public sector is free from kindergarten to senior high school, and that this year legislation will be passed to redefine basic education to include senior high school. Young people have to have options on which career path they choose, and I'm glad to announce that all is set for the construction of 10 state-of-the-art technical and vocational education training centers this year. For far too long, we have preached about the importance of TVET without doing very much to demonstrate this importance. We send or urge young people to go to poorly equipped TVET centers, and we're surprised that they are not keen. The new TVET centers will be world-class and attractive to assure young people that they're not being sent to second-best options. We're also bent on demystifying science, mathematics, and technology. 10 science, technology, engineering, and mathematics STEM centers are being built around the country to provide support for the introduction of STEM into basic education after the completion of a successful pilot phase. We can be sure, therefore, that Ghana's young people will be able to acquire skills that will put them at par with their peers anywhere in the world. The importance of science, technology, innovation has led me to appoint a Presidential Advisory Council on Science, Technology, and Innovation to advise the President on how to infuse the application of science and technology in the development of our nation. A council headed by distinguished scientist, Professor Edward Ayinsu. Mr. Speaker, we shall bring before Parliament this year a tertiary education policy bill that will bring all the public universities under a common law.
Well, I've been joined via telephone by National President of NAGRAT, Enjo Kabanu, for the association's take on this matter. Great to have you here, sir. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning.
Now, this is not the first time we are seeing the Akufo-Addo-led government introduce new policies into the education sector. But with this particular announcement we heard yesterday, good news?
What announcement specifically? If you don't
okay, let's start from the one on making senior high schools also basic.
Well, titles do not convert education from a bad state to a good state. Whether you call it basic or not, there is the need to get an input to a student to prepare him to go to tertiary university. If we say the secondary is now basic, are the tertiaries now going to be secondary, or they remain tertiary? If they remain tertiary, then what you are even calling basic should have an appropriate preparation to qualify the person to go to tertiary. Are we going to create the gap to be an empty void between the basic and the tertiary? So for me, the terminologies don't really add up for me.
Does this decision to make senior high school basic, do you foresee it affecting the qualification of teachers for the senior high school level?
No. We teach with syllabus and curriculum. And there are curriculum demands and expectations. And there are qualifications and competences that will be linked to the curriculum demands and expectations. So if you need a university degree holder to teach geography in a secondary school, whether you call it basic or primary, it does not change the fact that there are demands on that curriculum to prepare the students to go to university. I don't see the need to change the term. If you want to implement a free senior high school, the Constitution is specific that free compulsory basic education. If you want free senior high school for a free school for senior high school, implement the free school for senior high school. Let us not create a psychological drawback, bringing it down for them to be seen as basic, but let us rather ensure that the information, the competence, the technical skills and knowledge that they need, that they should have to qualify them to university is given. That is the most important thing. The provision of resources, the development of manpower to ensure that you prepare a student adequate for university. That is where our concentration should be.
Now, were you aware of this new policy prior to the president's announcement?
You mean the bringing senior high school to basic? Exactly,
and also the new curriculum for kindergarten to class 6.
Look, the National Curriculum Authority reviews the curriculum every 10 years. You review the curriculum with stakeholders. The question is, who are the stakeholders? The stakeholders are the managers of education and the practitioners of education. Because when you come up with a curriculum design that I am not attuned to, the implementation of that new curriculum will be done by the teacher. What is the level of consultation? When my vice president explained yesterday that we have not been consulted, I realized that the secretary to the ministry is saying that we're consulted. Look, when we talk about consultation, we talk about participating in the curriculum development and design. It is not a question of assembling me and somebody to come and tell me this is what you have done. That is not consultation. People should check the definition of consultation from the dictionary. Consultation is not to assemble me and to give me information. To consult me is to get my input in the development of the curriculum. And let's ask ourselves whether that was done or that was not done.
Now, you tell us, was that done?
It was not done. What was done was they had already developed what they wanted to develop, called us to a meeting, and to inform us that this is what they have done.
Did you register your displeasure during that meeting?
We indicated to them that we need to reconvene for us to make our input. They promised that they were going to call a meeting for us to sit down at the round table to discuss the input. They never did that.
Now, you say you were not consulted, but have you cited this new curriculum at all?
Yes, I cited the document that they have developed and they have produced. And when they have developed a document and they have produced the document, and they have even given the date when it's going to commence. Where do my inputs come in?
You were not consulted prior to developing the new curriculum, but you've seen it. Do you have any concerns about it?
Definitely, I'll have concerns about it, but it is already done. Where do I send my concerns?
Would you mind sharing it with us, your issues about this new curriculum to be rolled out?
You want me to break it down to the details where I have concerns?
I'm just asking, yes. For example, can you just cite one or two examples of issues that you have with it?
If they want our input, they can suspend or whatever and invite us. We'll go to them with our input. It's a very technical work that ought to be done. Some subjects have emerged.
Okay.
Some topics have been taken out. In our view, when you take out those topics, it will not help the child. It will not prepare a good foundation for the child to proceed in education.
Mr. Kabonu, others have raised concerns about the politicization, if you like, of policies within the education sector. A classic example is the 4-year senior high school, then it being reverted to 3 years and all that. Looking at the kind of policies being introduced by this particular government, what will your suggestion be as a stakeholder to ensure that when we start, for example, with a certain policy, we are able to carry it through to its logical conclusion?
Well, if I am seen as a worthy stakeholder, and if I say I am talking about I as a teacher, if I am seen as a worthy stakeholder, you will have to believe in my professionalism and in my competence. What I have, the feeling I have is that people don't even believe in the capability and the competence of the teacher. Therefore, people who are not teachers, people who are outside the teaching fraternity and teaching profession, think that they are reposed with the knowledge to develop policies for the teacher to implement. That's where the problem is. If the politicians and outsiders will allow those who have consciously gone for training in education to develop the policies and implement the policies, then we are going to see educational policies in this country devoid of political slant.
Finally, Mr. Kabonu, you are calling on government to call or have another meeting with regards to this issue of curriculum. But if that's not done, what do you do?
Well, then they can go ahead and implement it.
Thank you very much for your time. That was President of the National Association of Graduate Teachers, Angel Kabonu, reacting to the President's announcement of some new policies to be introduced into the education sector. Let's focus on other matters now. The chairperson of the National Commission on Civic Education, Josephine Nkrumah, has called for more prosecution of acts of party militias. Her call follows an appeal by President Akufo-Addo to the two major political parties to find ways of ending the menace which is posing a threat to the country's security. He made the call during the presentation of the State of the Nation address.
Speaker, 3 months ago, a member of this honorable House and the representative of Ayawaso West constituency, West Wogan constituency, died suddenly, throwing all of us into mourning. On 31st January, 3 weeks ago exactly, a by-election was called to elect a replacement for the late Emmanuel Chiramatin Ejako. May his soul rest in perfect peace. During the course of that morning, some events took place in that constituency which led to an uproar in the country. My first instinct was to let the police do their investigations and then prosecute if they found evidence of criminality. The narration that this was another incident of, quote, normal by-election violence, unquote, to expand my response. Indeed, Mr. Speaker, in our tenancy in Amenfi West had been marked with violence and some people still have their physical and emotional scars to show for it. I could have sat it out, as some did for Akwatia, Etiwa, Chereponi, Talensi, and Amensi West. But I decided that that will not be in the interest of Ghanaian democracy. The time has come to put an end to the phenomenon of politically related violence. The only way in our system to begin to deal with such a situation is through the work of a commission of inquiry. Thankfully, I got 4 responsible Ghanaians of independent spirit who agreed to serve on the commission. I hope the findings and recommendations of the Emile Short Commission will enable us chart a path to ending politically related violence in our country. The events of last Monday in Kumasi, where a meeting of the national and regional executives of the opposition National Democratic Congress was broken up by acts of violence, leading to the tragic death of a citizen, have reinforced the urgent need for us to find that path. I want to use the platform of this message to make a sincere, passionate appeal to the leaders of the 2 main political parties in our country, MPP and NDC, to come together as soon as possible, preferably next week, to agree on appropriate measures to bring an end to this worrying and unacceptable phenomenon of vigilantism in our body politic.
Well, let's now hear from the chairperson of the National Commission of Civic Education, Josephine Nkrumah, who's called for the prosecution of acts of party militias.
Sentencing regime, I believe people will begin to set up, and the police should act swiftly and decisively with anybody who engages in this act and ensure that people in Ghana hear about it, and that in itself is a deterrent for these. Once you take away the politics or the political figures behind the activities of these thugs, it is nothing more than a crime. And our Criminal Offences Act has enough laws that deal with this. So what we should see is more prosecution in terms of the acts of vigilantism. And when we see more prosecution, vigorous and deterrent enough, then I believe people will begin to set up. I do not think that we need further legislation to deal with this matter.
You're watching News Desk with me, Benes Abubedolansa. We'll take a quick breather and I will bring you more later.